His death came as a huge surprise to me. My father, the charmer that he is, says that the only surprise is how long he lasted. My brother had issues with depression and addiction, and had been in and out of rehab since high school, but had never attempted suicide before. What he had done was fall off the wagon over and over again. Maybe I'm an idiot for putting this kind of hope in an addict, but this time, it felt different. He had been sober for a few months, his longest run ever, and he had gotten a job, and he was doing really well from what I could tell. He even started to talk about becoming a writer. I had never known him to have a dream, so this was a really big deal for me. What I'm trying to say is, he didn't seem like somebody who was planning on killing himself. He seemed like he was really determined to stay sober this time. I got my hands on his journal a few days ago. I know that he had been keeping one since he got out of rehab, and I was really hoping that there was some kind of clue as to what had happened. Honestly, I have no idea what to make of its contents. If taken at face value, it looks like he may have had some kind of psychotic break, or something like that. But like I said, he seemed to be in a relatively good place. If he was gonna snap, I feel like it would have happened when things were really bad for him, which they were for years. I spoke to him a few times before it happened, and he seemed pretty lucid. Like he didn't say anything that raised any red flags or hinted that he might be having hallucinations. Even his writing reads like it always did if you ignore the subject matter. Anyway, I've been up for days poring over this journal, trying to make heads or tails of what he was going through. I've hit a wall, honestly. It just isn't adding up for me. I'm hoping that stepping away from it for a couple of days will give me a fresh perspective. I'm gonna post the journal entries here in the meantime. I'm not quite sure what I'm hoping for, but it feels wrong to just sit around and do nothing. I think it's important to mention that there were literally hundreds of entries in his journal. I'm only posting the ones that I think are most relative to his breakdown. Entry 1. April 10th, 2019. I posted my first story on Reddit today. It didn't get much attention, so I ended up taking it down. One of the few people who did see it though DM'd me. He, I'm assuming, said he liked the way that I wrote and that he needed some authors to beta test his program he and his team had been working on. He asked if I was interested. I wasn't, but I was. I'm not an accept job offers from internet strangers kind of guy, but people aren't exactly scrambling to hire me right now. Most employers aren't interested in a guy that got caught stealing painkillers from his pharmacy that he worked at. It's a shocker, I know. I waited a few minutes to see if somebody with a job offer was going to knock down my door at the last second. And when that didn't happen, I accepted the Reddit guy's offer. We exchanged emails and he sent me a bunch of crap to sign, including a non-disclosure agreement. Not sure what he thought I'd be telling. I'm beta testing software isn't exactly something you shout from the rooftops. I'm expected to spend at least 8 hours a day during the week working on the program. God, I can already feel my back cramping up. Whatever, it pays well and it's not like I have anything better to do. I start tomorrow. Times that I thought about drinking today, 25. Times that I thought about pills today, 18. Cigarettes smoked, 6. Entry 2, April 11th, 2019. Holy shit. It took me 2 hours, 2 goddamn hours to get through the instructions section of the program. I read all sorts of stuff about character types and what I can and cannot do within the program. There's a lot of mention of something called the Storyscape, but I'm still not entirely clear on what that is. I didn't ask what kind of program it was, but I figured that I didn't need to. There aren't many programs one would need writers to test, to the best of my knowledge anyway. I figured that it would be a word processor or some kind of something meant to make staying on task easier. But nope. It's a collaborative life simulator, according to the instructions, which by the way took me 2 hours to read. I know I said that already, but I'm still pissed off about it. These tech nerds really blow my mind. They can create a whole collaborative whatever, but a simple summary is completely outside the realm of possibility. I'm going to be responsible for watching over a character, following their day-to-day life and intervening in subtle ways to make shit happen. What exactly that shit is will be defined by assignments given to me by the program. You see, it wasn't so hard, was it? Anyway, I guess that makes this some kind of video game. Cool, I like video games. I've managed to break down the instructions into a few important bullet points. I'm going to write that down here so I don't have to slog through that crap again if I forget something. 1. An author must complete every assignment that they are given. Failure to do so will result in termination of their contract. 2. There are 2 types of characters, complex and throwaway. 3. Once a character is created, it cannot be deleted. It'll exist within the storyscape and will perform actions until its death. 4. An author can create throwaway characters to perform a specific task. 5. Complex characters cannot be created by an author. Only admin can create complex characters. 6. Complex characters have free will, and their decisions and subsequent actions are their own. Free will? I didn't make that up. That was actually in the instructions. Long-winded and melodramatic. I finally clicked out of the instructions and I was greeted with an overhead view of this boy's bedroom. I really wasn't expecting the graphics to be this good. I wasn't expecting graphics, honestly. It reminded me a bit of that game, The Sims, but way less cartoony. I put together that this digital world was the storyscape that they were talking about. I moused over the kid and a little box popped up above his head. Jared Redford, 8, complex. I did the tutorial, which basically just walked me through Jared's first day of 3rd grade. It played out kind of like a movie, with the important scenes getting screen time and everything else being skipped over. How the program decides what is and isn't important is beyond me. It all seems pretty mundane so far. Supposedly, there's an option to play through the entire day, but honestly, who has time for that? The first assignment that I got was, make new friends, and the tutorial showed me all the options for accomplishing that. I can't control Jared directly, but I can do a whole bunch of other things like make thoughts pop into his head, control the intensity of specific emotions, give him gut feelings, cause little muscle spasms, and a bunch of other things as well. It seems like the whole point of giving the character free will was to have me bend it. Why not just let me control the character and be done with it? The whole day took me around 10 minutes to complete. I made a throwaway 5th grader and had him knock Jared's books out of his hands in the hallway. He ended up making friends with the 2 kids that helped him pick everything up. Man, I wish someone came to my rescue like that when I was a kid. Maybe then I wouldn't have ended up as a recovering addict babysitting a digital 8-year-old. Times I thought about drinking today, 22. Times I thought about pills today, 29. Cigarettes smoked, 9. Entry 3, May 4th, 2019. The attention that the developers paid to detail is impressive. It's been about 3 weeks real time since I started using the program, which translates to a little less than 3 years within the storyscape. Mikey and Jackson, the 2 kids who came to Jared's rescue on the first day of 3rd grade, had become his best friends in the entire world. The 3 of them are completely inseparable, which is why Jared was devastated when Jackson's parents started talking about moving to another town. It crushed him, understandably. Yes, in theory, they would still be able to see each other, but they would be at the mercy of their parents who probably wouldn't want to make the 30-something minute drive all that often. Watching Jared try to pretend like everything was okay, even though he wanted to cry all the time, really hit home for me. He wasn't a freak or anything like that, but he did have a difficult time connecting with people. He was in his head a lot, and it can make him appear awkward on the surface. Jackson was one of the few people who took the time to get to know Jared, and to see him lose that, he deserves better is all I'm saying. I waited to see if an assignment would come in for me to stop Jackson's parents from moving, and when it didn't, I decided to go ahead and stop them anyway. I made a throwaway and I snuck her in a house that looked very much like the ones Jackson's parents were going to buy. I made it her purpose in life to sell that house for significantly below market value, and I had her post up flyers around the area where Jackson's mom likes to power walk. I also made a second throwaway and I had him drunk drive his car through the living room of the other house. You can never be too thorough. Long story short, it worked and Jackson's family ended up moving right down the street from Jared. When Jared found out and that cloud that had been hanging over his head had dissipated, it felt like all of my insides unclenched at once. I hadn't even realized how tense I was. That's not the impressive part though. When everything was said and done, I started to think about the throwaway that I had created. I literally added a lot to Jared's neighborhood and built a house on it instantaneously, yet no one within the storyscape batted a digital eyelash. I made the throwaway walk her dog and stuff, and it seemed like people knew who she was despite the fact that she didn't exist until a few minutes ago. They waved to her and said good morning and all that normal neighborly junk. The program had this timeline feature where you can go back and look at any event that happened from the day you booted up the program for the first time. It showed that the house had always been there and that the woman had always lived in it. I'm not exactly an expert on this kind of stuff, but it seems like the program retroactively generated a whole life for the throwaway. It sort of makes sense when you think about it. When I'm in public, I often think about the fact that every single person I pass in the streets is living their own lives. They might be throwaways in my story, but in theirs, they're the main character. They have their own history, their own social security number, family, home, etc. If you were to suddenly take an interest in their lives and dig deep enough, you would find all of those things. It's like a trail of breadcrumbs that show this person existed long before they flashed across your field of vision. If somebody in the storyscape decided to play detective and couldn't find those breadcrumbs, that might raise more than a few red flags. I know that sounds crazy, but you wouldn't even believe how advanced this AI is. I sometimes forget these people that I'm watching aren't real. The rules did say that complex characters have free will, and maybe that means they're capable of higher level thinking as well. Maybe it would be possible for them to figure out that they're a part of a simulation. Maybe it's already happened before, and that's why the developers put that feature in. I wonder what happened to the character that put all the pieces together. Times that I thought about drinking today, 35. Times that I thought about pills today, 19. Cigarettes smoked, 8. Entry 4, May 17th, 2019. Middle school was more or less what you would expect. Puberty, self-discovery, peer pressure, the whole gamut really. Everything except an interest in girls. I guess his hormones haven't reached critical mass yet. Maybe he's a late bloomer. The majority of the assignments were more long-term things meant to carry over into high school. Things like prepare for high school football and cultivate an interest in the forensics club. Both have been easy enough so far. For football, I've been increasing his feelings of happiness and determination every time he does anything physical or watches football on TV. For forensics, I had a throwaway cause a programming error that made an episode of CSI pop up on a channel Jared watches after school. He started watching it on the internet now. They've started giving me quick assignments to do at the same time. I have a theory that the program is trying to maintain some kind of equilibrium. Like for every handful of positive effects, there's a few negative ones to balance them out. I guess it wouldn't be all that realistic if Jared was happy all the time. Honestly, I don't really like doing negative things to him. When I see him all sad and dejected over something he can't control, it makes me feel like somebody punched me in the gut. It's like I'm looking at myself, 14 years old, and wondering what I did to deserve the hurt that I was feeling. I wonder if he can also feel that feeling of powerlessness, if it falls thick and dark around him like blackberry syrup. I wonder how often he feels like he's drowning in his own bedroom. I hope never. I don't want him to feel like I did. I don't want him to hate his life so much that he has to turn to drugs and alcohol to cope with it. He shouldn't have to mire through his life. I did enough of that for the both of us. Times that I thought about drinking today, 32. Times that I thought about pills today, 41. Cigarettes smoked, 11. Entry 5, May 23rd, 2019. In a strange but very welcome turn of events, Jared has a girlfriend. I'm not gonna lie, I was starting to think that he might be gay. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but he does live in a conservative town, and I didn't want him to have to deal with coming out in a place like that. It just turns out that he hadn't met the right girl yet. And by that, I mean he hadn't met any girl that even remotely interested him. But then Melody got transferred into his chemistry class. His jaw hit the floor so hard that I had to remind him to close it before he drooled all over himself. It was like someone reached into his brain, took his idea of a perfect woman, and then stuck her in his class. Which might have been what actually happened, but we won't go there for right now. Funny, I never would have thought that redheads were his type. I guess that explains his disinterest in the rest of the local ladies. Melody is the first redheaded girl that I'd seen in the entire storyscape. I spent the whole class filling his head with confidence-boosting thoughts. I decided to exercise one of my most intrusive powers and hijack the little voice in his head. Take a deep breath, you got this. She's just a girl, nothing to be scared of. Look, she's smiling at you, just smile back. I felt weird being inside his head like that, especially when I imagined somebody doing the same thing to me, but it really helped. After class, he was so pumped that he walked straight up to her and asked her if she wanted to go see a movie. A few dates later, my man gets up the courage to ask her to be his girlfriend, and no little voice required, and she says yes. He was so happy that it actually brought a tear to my eye. The first happy tear that I've cried. Ever, really. Times that I've thought about drinking today, 15. Times that I thought about pills today, 17. Cigarettes smoked, 7. Entry 6th, June 10th, 2019. I freaking hate myself. I hate myself, and I hate whoever writes these stupid assignments. I only got one assignment today. I probably would have gotten more if I stayed on, but I'm done for now. Maybe forever, I don't know. When the assignment to break his heart came in, I just stared at it for a while. Long enough to see that the program wasn't going to allow the day to progress until I started taking the necessary steps to do so. By the 5th or 6th loop, the program started reminding me that if I didn't complete the assignments, I would be fired. I just don't understand why he needed a heartbreak. Yeah, okay, it's a learning experience and all that, but there are other ways to learn things. Let the kid have his young love. Let it end naturally and be a fond memory for him, not something that pops into his head during bouts of insomnia. I don't use the word love lightly, and by the way, but Jared freaking loved that girl, and it really showed in his actions. I'm no expert on love, but I know a good relationship when I see one. She was a good influence on him. Maybe not directly, I mean. She drank a little more than I would have liked, but her presence made Jared want to do his best. Every test that he aced, he did it for her. Every touchdown he scored for her. She became everything to him. Yes, I acknowledge that probably wasn't healthy, but who cares, he was happy. And of course, I have to be the one to put a stop to that. I did my best to remind myself that this was just a simulation. that Jared wasn't real and neither was Melody, but that wasn't working anymore. It doesn't matter if he's real or not. My connection to him was real. Screw me, I'm such an asshole. I did it for the freaking money, and that's all there is to it. I broke my little buddy's heart for a paycheck, and not even a good one. It's bullshit. Everything is bullshit. I did my best to make sure that Jared could heal. He had to hate her if it was gonna happen. If he still had feelings for her, had any reason to keep asking himself, what if I would have done things differently? Then this would become a weight he carries for the rest of his life. High school romance or not, that stuff sticks with you. There was a party that they were supposed to go to. Just a typical no parents no rules type of shindig on a Friday night. Jared ended up deciding not to go. The week before, he had showed up to Saturday practice hungover and coach flew off the handle. He didn't want to risk it, but he told Melody that she should go. He trusted her completely, so in his mind, there was nothing to worry about. I made a throwaway, a boy from another school. Chiseled, handsome, tall, standard high school dreamboat. His purpose was to seduce her, and I really hoped that it wasn't going to work. I hoped that she had felt the same way about Jared that he felt about her. And that she would have enough respect for the relationship to not throw it all away for one drunk hookup. And that she would prove herself worthy of that trust. And then the eggheads that made this program would love all the outcome and say, "Wow, I didn't expect that. Well, love is love, you can't mess with that." Wouldn't that be nice? Unfortunately though, reality is very rarely nice. Apparently the same goes for virtual reality. I had the throwaway take a video and send it around. It was an awful way for Jared to find out, but I had to make sure that he really hated her. So much so that it would eclipse how much he loved her. And it worked, maybe too well. He's been having reoccurring dreams. When I look inside them, I can see blurry images. Really violent ones where he does unspeakable things to a girl with fiery hair. He wakes up sweaty and crying and usually can't fall back asleep afterwards. His grades are slipping. Coach moved him off of the starting lineup. He dropped out of the forensics club. His life is falling apart right before my eyes and it's all my fault. I don't think that I can do this anymore. Times that I thought about drinking today, 42. Times that I thought about pills today, 37. Cigarettes smoked, 16. Entry 7, in June 11th, 2019. That piece of shit. I called the asshole that gave me this job and I told him that I was done. And you know what he told me? You can't quit. I told him that there was literally nothing he could do to stop me. I didn't even want my last paycheck. I just wanted to delete the stupid program and forget any of this had ever happened. I told him if the complex characters have free will, then so do I. And what I want is to put this whole goddamn thing behind me. He tells me that if I quit now, they'll have to find somebody else to write Jared. Hasn't he been through enough? I shouted into the phone. He hasn't fulfilled his purpose. He said it so casually. Like he was telling me he needed to stop by the store and pick up milk. I wish that I could have reached through the phone and broke his freaking nose. Every character in the storyscape is a single part of a greater whole. They need to fulfill their purpose for the good of the story. I practically begged him to just leave Jared alone. AI or not, he can feel things, I know that. That prick just kept saying that his hands were tied. We serve the story, he kept saying. God, I'm so frustrated. What kind of sick asshole or group of assholes does shit like this? They created Jared, bestowed him with sentience and gave him feelings and free will. But for what? Just so he could really feel the pain they intended to inflict on him. To make him smart enough to wish he was never born when his heart shattered into a million tiny pieces. What's his purpose? To be a drug addict. Because he sure as hell is heading that way with the amount that he's been drinking. It might seem like I'm being overdramatic about this whole high school breakup thing, but listen to this. I overheard a conversation between Jared and his dad the other day. The program skips over their interactions often, so I didn't even realize that his mother wasn't in the picture. I did some digging and I found out that his mom was ridiculously abusive. She used to lock Jared in a closet and make him kneel on frozen peas when he misbehaved. She said that it was because he was an awful child born with poison inside of him. He needed to learn to be well behaved and to not spread his poison to other people, or everybody he loved would die, her included. What a messed up thing to say to a child. She was diagnosed with multiple mental illnesses and committed to a mental institution. I looked her up and she looked so pathetic. Drugged to high hell, glass-eyed and slack-jawed. Fire red hair so wild and unkempt that I would have believed it if you told me that she was raised by wolves. I wanted to hate her for what she had did to Jared, but then I moused over her and I saw that she was a complex character too. That means somebody probably rolled her into a psychotic break. It's not her fault. It's their fault. They're monsters and they're going to keep bending Jared until he breaks. God, I can't quit. The next author won't give a shit about him. I'll have to follow the assignments, but what I do in between them is up to me. I could spend my time making him happy, undoing the hurt that the assignments do. Screw whatever purpose that he's meant to fulfill. I won't let them use him for their stupid story. Times that I thought about drinking today, I didn't count. Times that I thought about pills today, no idea. Cigarettes smoked. A lot. Entry 8, June 13th, 2019. I can't believe my eyes right now. I thought at first that there was something wrong with the program, like some kind of graphical glitch or something like that. So I shut it down and I turned it back on. Nope, there it was. Assignment: kill Melody. I probably shouldn't be as surprised as I am. I should have expected something like this from the pieces of crap that made this program. They want to make Jared into a freaking killer. That must be the purpose that asshole on the phone was telling me about. Well, I'm not doing it. We're not doing it. It's not gonna happen. They have absolutely no right to pull something like this. None whatsoever. I'm going to find out where these wastes of human life work and give them a taste of their own medicine. Who the hell are they to play God? I need a drink. Entry 9, June 14th or 15th, 2019. His handwriting starts to get really sloppy here, so it's hard to tell. I had to do it. I had to. I didn't want to, but I had to. I tried to save him from it. I made a drunk driver to hit him. I made a gunman to shoot him. I made a pilot to crash a plane into his house. Quick, easy deaths, it was better for him. I called the asshole. He said, "The Storyscape needs a serial killer." A serial killer? So Melody would be the first of many. No, I won't do it. You have to, or we'll find somebody that will. Screw you, I'll never let it happen. I'll sit here and undo everything you try to do to him. Everything. And I don't care if it takes the rest of my life. Fine. And then we'll find another killer. And Jared will be his first victim. And we'll make sure that the next one likes to take things slowly. When I looked at the assignment again, it said, "Hunter be hunted." I couldn't let him be hunted. I tried to kill him all night, but they just undid everything. Brought us right back to the beginning of the day. Jared doesn't even know what was happening to him. It was better for him to be the hunter. He would be happier that way. I pulled images from his dreams. Images of a girl with fire red hair bound and gagged. Trying her best to scream but only managing muffled cries through the spit-saturated cloth. Eyes wide and bloodshot. Cheeks streaked with tears, dried and fresh. I pushed his happiness and satisfaction as high as it would go. I didn't need to do anything to his arousal. That was already maxed out. I helped him make the plan. mostly nudging him in the right direction, but hijacking the little voice in his head when it felt necessary. I didn't want him to get caught, and I would have to rot in a jail cell. He deserves freedom. I let him pick the murder weapon. I suggested a gun, make it quick and easy. But he didn't want that though. He picked an axe. The forensics club had taught him that genetic material would be his undoing. He wore a hairnet under a beanie, under a ski mask, leather gloves, and a surgical mask. He wore dark clothing that covered as much skin as possible. He picked out a place to bring her. An old electrical shed in the woods behind his neighborhood. It hadn't been used in years, and the lock was rusty and easy to break. He followed her for days, and he waited for his opening. Football had made him fast enough to rush her before she knew what was going on, strong enough to knock her out in one punch and carry her unconscious body to his car. He tied her up and he placed a gag in her mouth, just like in his dreams. He gave her a speech before he killed her. I wasn't really listening. Something about how much she hurt him. The little bit I did catch sounded ambiguous. He avoided specifics and he focused on the pain that he felt. I could tell that he had gone over the speech 1,000 times in his head, maybe 10,000. He kept touching her hair, running his fingers through it, looking at it through tear-blurred eyes, pressing handfuls of it to his nose. I think I counted 57 swings of the axe. She looked like mincemeat when he was done. A mushy pile of gore with fire-red blood-matted hair. The plastic tarp that he put down beforehand made cleanup easy. A little check mark appeared next to the assignment. Jared slept more soundly that night than he had since the breakup. I bought a bottle of Jack Daniels. Entry 10, June 17th, 2019. Again, sloppy handwriting. This whole entry was practically illegible. There's more to this than I'm seeing, I know it. Jared is real. He's real whether he's physically real or not. He isn't just lines of code wrapped in a convincing character model. What if the storyscape is just another dimension? That would make me a deity of some sort, one who used his power to create a monster. He keeps killing and I haven't even touched my keyboard. I just leave the program running while I drink and Jared does what he does. Free will my ass. I made him this. I manipulated him into making decisions he thought that were his own. I only believed that he had free will. And maybe it's the same for me. I did everything that I was told, reluctantly or otherwise. I kept following those assignments until whoever the hell they are got exactly what they want. They served the story and I served them. There's a thought that keeps popping into my head. How do I know that my feelings are mine? My love for Jared, that I need to protect him, to see him happy. What if that was put inside my head? What if somebody was sitting at their computer and jacking up my happiness, my empathy, and my compassion? Now that I think about it, Jared and I didn't even have that much in common. But somehow I felt like we were kindred spirits. What if I haven't been the only one inside my head this whole time? What if I've never been the only one inside my head? That would explain it. My life, my pain, my addictions. All of those were just parts of my story. Little pieces of an inciting incident that would drive me to fulfill my purpose. But what purpose? How many layers are there to this thing? How many endless authors are out there? Fingers dancing across their keyboards. Keystrokes reaching into the storyscape to gently bend the free will of their complex characters. To do what? Write in their storyscapes. Manipulate their characters. Where does it end? No. Where does it begin? God, my head. It's swimming. I won't be a part of this. I won't be someone's puppet. If my theory is right and I am a complex character, then that means that I have free will. Or the illusion of it at least. As long as I live, my actions will never be my own, even if they feel that way. There will always be an invisible hand guiding me. There will always be an author behind a keyboard. I won't let that happen. I will be free. I will be free. I have free will and I will be free.